Arcadia Mayor Eileen Wang admits acting as a Chinese spy running fake news website with ex-lover in shocking plea deal.
This is why this makes this all the more interesting now when we revisit what happened in March of 2026 with Michael Ma on the Industry Committee.
A bombshell report from the United States FBI director dropped today that a U.S. mayor has now admitted she secretly acted on behalf of the Chinese government, using what looked like a local news site to push Beijing's propaganda directly into public conversation. When we compare this case to what recently happened on Parliament Hill back in March, the similarities are too close to ignore.
Let's take a look. So before we take you to the most recent story, we found another story from earlier that kind of puts this all into perspective, and it makes this all the more troubling. May 2nd, 2025. China allegedly tried to influence this politician. She says she's not going anywhere.
Arcadia City Council member Eileen Wang said her romantic relationship with her former fiancé, Yao Mike's son, ended last spring. Federal prosecutors allege that Sun worked with the Chinese government to cultivate Wang in hopes that she would rise in politics and help promote pro-China policies. After being sworn in as second in command of the Arcadia City Council, Eileen Wang addressed a controversy that has taken a back seat in the months since the Eaton fire devastated nearby Altadena. Quote, "We broke up the fiancé relationship," end quote, Wang said of her former campaign manager Yao Mike Sung. Quote, "We keep the friendship," end quote. Wang said their romantic relationship ended last spring, 8 months before federal prosecutors charged Sun with conspiracy and acting as an illegal agent of a foreign government. The April 15th statement from Wang, now mayor pro tem of the San Gabriel Valley City, was one of the few times she has publicly addressed the charges against Sun, who allegedly worked with China to cultivate Wang, in hopes that she would rise in politics and help promote pro-China policies, including opposition to Taiwan. Facing calls for her resignation, Wang had vowed in January not to step away from the council, emphasizing that she was, quote, "not responsible for the actions of others," end quote. Wang did not respond to several calls and emails from The Times. The other 4 council members also did not respond to emails.
So basically what was going on here is there was a scandal earlier that involved the financing of Wang's campaign, and her former fiance was charged and sent to prison for, I think, 4 years. And she's sitting there saying, well, I had no idea this was ever going on. And the interesting thing is Sun, her former fiance, basically didn't say anything. He said, okay, well, yeah, it's me. Off I go. So this is fascinating considering the next article.
Arcadia Mayor Eileen Wang admits acting as a Chinese spy running fake news website with ex-lover in shocking plea deal. A California mayor admitted to acting as an illegal foreign agent of China, resigning from her position in a shocking federal plea deal unsealed on Monday. Eileen Wang agreed with prosecutors that she worked with the People's Republic of China to boost propaganda with a fake news website on U.S. soil between 2020 and 2022. She was elected to the city council in Arcadia, a city in the San Gabriel Valley within LA County, in November of 2022. Wang, 58, worked with her then fiancé, Yao Mike's son, on a website called U.S. News Center, which claimed to be a news source for Chinese Americans, according to court documents. But in reality, the pair were carrying out Beijing's orders through the site. Wang and Sun, quote, executed directives, end quote, from the Chinese government, posting propaganda designed to boost China, all while reporting back to their masters with screenshots showing how many people viewed their stories according to the plea agreement. In one case, Wang's spy master ordered her to post pre-written news articles, including a PRC official written essay in the Los Angeles Times, the plea deal states. Quote, there is no genocide in Xinjiang. There is no such thing as forced labor in any production activity, including cotton production. Spreading such rumor is to defame China, destroy Xinjiang's safety and stability, end quote, wrote Wang's master according to the plea agreement. Wang complied and her handler wrote back, quote, so fast, thank you everyone, end quote. In another case, Wang's PRC boss commended her on page views received by a certain piece of propaganda. Wang wrote back, quote, thank you, leader, end quote. Wang pleaded guilty to the federal charge at her arraignment in downtown Los Angeles on Monday afternoon. She faces a maximum of 10 years in prison.
Now, because we're always interested in following the breadcrumbs, this is actually the original article that the New York Post article refers to. So this was called Letters to the Editor, Chinese Official Response to a Times Editorial on Cotton from Xinjiang. And you can see here, this was posted on June 9th, 2021. And you can see the text that the other article actually references here. So this is precisely what was posted in the LA Times. This is the website that Wang actually operated with her fiance. And this is the repost of that article, but in Mandarin. So this is what this report is actually referring to. Now, this is the United States Attorney's Office for the Central District of California, because again, we love going to the source. Arcadia mayor federally charged with acting as illegal agent of the People's Republic of China. And we get some interesting additional context here.
Quote, by her own admission, Eileen Wang secretly served the interests of the Chinese government, end quote, said Assistant Director Roman Rozovsky of the FBI's Counterintelligence and Espionage Division. Quote, let this serve as a clear warning. Individuals who act on behalf of foreign governments to influence our democracy will be identified, investigated, and brought to justice. Protecting the rule of law and the transparency of our democratic process remains at the core of the FBI's mission, and we will continue working alongside our partners to safeguard the integrity of our elections and keep hostile actors from undermining the voices of the American people, end quote. Quote, all Americans should be alarmed to learn an elected official was brazenly spreading propaganda on behalf of the Chinese government, end quote, said Patrick Grandy, the assistant director in charge of the FBI's Los Angeles field office. Quote, the FBI is dedicated to rooting out those illegally acting as agents of a foreign government as they do the bidding of America's adversaries, end quote.
So this isn't the only story that has come out of the United States over the last year or two. The fascinating thing about this is that it seems much harder to get people into these positions in the United States if you're the Chinese government, but there's more people identified, charged, and brought to justice. Well, what am I saying? It's not that there's more, that there's any, because I don't recall ever hearing of any sort of law enforcement case that has brought a Chinese spy to justice in Canada. What we hear about after the fact is the two people that actually infiltrated the Winnipeg lab took all of our stuff and then left. That's what we get to hear about, and we find it after the fact.
Well, and just to be fair, CSIS, who is mainly responsible for investigating these things, and I suppose you could argue the RCMP as well, but CSIS especially does not have, in my opinion, the tools that they need to do the job because they do not have powers to arrest people.
Well, we also seem to have a systemic ignorance that is in Canada, or maybe it's systemic compliance. We don't know.
I almost wonder if it's arrogance, you know. For example, my grandparents came to this country because it was Canada. It was fabulous. It was the Canadian dream. And I think maybe some of us kind of think, oh, that won't happen here. It's Canada.
I think a lot of the general public think that, but you know, we've heard from CSIS itself at committee, and we've heard from CSIS when it comes to the Hogue Commission that was released by the Liberal government, that Canada essentially opened for business for foreign interference.
Well, and when we had interviewed Michel Juno Katsuya, he had indicated that there were over 50 people involved in government that were also potentially acting as foreign agents.
Past and present, right? So this is why this makes this all the more interesting now when we revisit what happened in March of 2026 with Michael Ma on the Industry Committee.
Mr. Ma, the floor is yours for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the witnesses being here. Due to the time limit, I'm going to be asking for very sharp, precise answers for the following questions for Ms. Krieger-Johnston. Do you have an advanced degree in technology and cybersecurity? Yes or no?
No, but
Thank you.
I have spent
like I said,
37 years
I need
in
to
that
get short answers,
business.
please.
Okay.
The other one is you belong to the China Strategic Risk Institute. So does this institute specifically look for risk when there isn't one? Yes or no?
No,
So why is it a risk institute?
because it analyzes risks that are obviously there.
Thank you. So the last question then is, you claim about forced labor in Shenzhen. Have you witnessed this yourself? Have you been there ever?
I've been to
Sorry.
China many times.
Have you witnessed
since
forced labor in Shenzhen?
1979?
Have
No.
you witnessed forced, just a short answer. Have you witnessed forced labor in Shenzhen? Yes or no? So did you get that
I
from
work closely with
hearsay?
Human Rights Watch, where researchers
Okay.
did witness it.
So thank you.
Ms. McQuaig-Johnson, I want to apologize for the member on the other side of the table.
Point of
who was
order.
Very rude
Chair
to you.
Okay, colleagues, just one moment. Mr. Ma, on a point of order.
Well, I obviously in public being accused, and I like an apology from the member from the other side.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ma. That would not be a point of order, and I don't.
Give me evidence that any
Mr.
violation that requires an apology for me on my behalf.
So,
Well, I'll continue with my apology for the behavior of the member across the aisle. You're giving very good testimony.
Point of order. I did not ask you to represent me to apologize, so thank you.
Contain aluminum from Uyghur forced labor, and he didn't know about the report, I think, and after the meeting, I gave him a copy, my own copy of the report, and he said to me, "I don't believe in reports. I don't believe in anything I can't see for myself." And he said, "You and I should go to China to see if we can see Uyghur forced labor." And I said to him, "They would never show you Uyghur forced labor. You know, the only people who see it are the ones on the ground in China who are being subjected to it. And I've been sanctioned by China for my work on the Uyghurs, including forced labor and other issues related to the Uyghurs, bringing Uyghurs from other countries to Canada."
Ma's office sent a statement to defend his action, saying Michael used a quick burst of yes or no questions to move away from the anti-China EV witness and then to give the floor to the pro-China EV witness. That was the strategy on paper.
Challenge a witness on forced labor in China. Do you believe there's forced labor in China? You do? Is that a yes, Mr. Ma?
Sorry, I'm late for a meeting.
Yes, but can you please explain your comments at the Industry Committee?
I have no comment at this time.
The Conservatives are making it seem like you don't care about forced labor in China or you don't believe in it. What do you think of that?
Well, they like to exaggerate always.
Was it really an exaggeration? Do you believe there is forced labor in China?
I believe there are forced laborers all over the world.
What about China specifically?
Well, all over the world.
But China specifically?
Sorry, I need to run.
So looking at that now, after reading this story that broke today, I look at this in a completely different way.
Well, it was funny because when we were reviewing the story of the mayor in the States, I just went, well, this sounds familiar.
Right, because it's the exact issue that Michael Ma was raising in committee and trying to discredit a witness for.
Well, and why were they pushing that particular issue so hard?
Right. Now, the other thing that I look back, and it looks very interesting on, is immediately when called out by Kathy Borelli, Conservative MP down in Windsor, Michael Ma says, well, I want an apology. I want an apology for calling me out. And he didn't get one. And he said, well, I'm being accused. I want an apology. And then the chair moves on, and Kathy says, well, I'm going to apologize again. And I don't need you to represent me. And then that terrible statement that someone actually sat down, wrote, thought that was great, and then Michael Ma would have approved to then send out, oh, well, he wasn't, the strategy that was laid out was to discredit the anti-China EV witness and move on to the pro-China EV witness. That was the strategy on paper. So the fact that he actually put that in writing.
Well, he said the quiet part out loud, right?
Right. And the question is did he say the quiet part out loud from Mr. Carney or Mr. China or both? This is what we are left wondering. But it paints us in a completely different way when you look at what this mayor and her former fiance were doing. And going back to that, so the former fiance, he gets caught, he goes to jail. He doesn't sell her out.
Because, I mean, she was an operative. Why would you sell out another operative?
Right.
If her cover's not blown yet, then she's going to keep doing what she was doing.
Right.
Theoretically, right?
So this is the fascinating part about this. You don't give in, you don't do anything until you're actually caught, and then it's, oh no, it was all me. Right? So fast forward to the committee where Michael Ma's there, and he's not caught for anything, so he doesn't acknowledge anything. But then he's told by the Liberals to basically be quiet and just say, well, we acknowledge there's forced labor and all over the world, and we condemn it all over the world. Now, this goes back to something else that Mark Carney had said when he was being asked how he deals with China. And all of this kind of comes into focus in a very disturbing way.
It's interesting. The first time as Prime Minister that I met with President Xi, which was at the APEC summit in November, he chose to spend the first 10 plus minutes discussing how he wanted the personal interaction to be. And if I were to summarize, no surprises. If you really care about something, be clear. Don't lecture me. I mean, he didn't say it this way, but I interpret it. Don't lecture me in public. Bring issues to me directly. Then, there is some recognition, obviously, the responsibilities of democratic leaders to be transparent in public, but don't start in public and then try to backfill. So
this is interesting. What I get from that is Xi Jinping tells Mark Carney in January, 2 months before this happened in committee, don't criticize me in public. I won't tolerate that.
Well, and I believe he had given Justin Trudeau a dressing down for something very similar.
He did. And it was because Justin Trudeau was kind of talking to him about a private conversation in public there. But this isn't about a private conversation. Ironically, Mark Carney is sharing a private conversation that he has. But this is about criticizing China. But if you read between the lines here, I think those lines are very easy to read between because they're pretty far apart. That tells me that Xi Jinping had said to Mark Carney, don't be criticizing China in public. And what happens 2 months later? This business with Michael Ma blows up, and all of the Liberals, it wasn't just Michael Ma in that exchange with that reporter that was saying that. It was all kinds of Liberals and Mark Carney. None of them would directly condemn China.
Right. Oh, it happens all over the world.
Right. And they just would refuse to do that. So this is interesting in a disturbing way. Now, it's not necessarily surprising, but it calls into question, why are we not prosecuting and investigating people that are acting on China's behalf within this country? And this is where Canadians really need to start asking this question, and start asking this question repeatedly and relentlessly at all levels of government, municipal, provincial, and federal. Because this is unacceptable. It's unacceptable that the United States ends up investigating and charging and prosecuting a campaign manager and a councillor, eventually turning mayor, of, let's just call it, they're not the mayor of Los Angeles. They're not the mayor of New York.
But it's still a mayor. It's still somebody who was voted in by the public, but was not serving the public. They were serving China.
Right.
And I think this kind of underscores this bigger message that if this can happen in the United States, where they take foreign interference extremely seriously, what is going on here in Canada? And it is a problem that Canadians do not know.
And this is the point I was raising earlier that Tanya summarized very, very well there. If they're doing this in the United States and finding all of this and holding them to account and shedding the sunlight on there, what CSIS has said should be done. And they're not worried about national security and we have to be careful about putting this stuff out in the public because it could endanger people. It could compromise our methods of collection. How about this? It shows to all of these other nations out there that we're not going to be hiding behind this. We find you, you're going to be on full display. Both you and your operative and your country, because everybody in the general public needs to know exactly what's going on. And Canadians deserve to know what's exactly going on with Michael Ma, Mark Carney, and our Liberal government.